Hello, horror fans, and welcome back to the Script to Scream podcast, where we delve into the spine-tingling world of horror cinema. Each week, we look at the scariest scenes, unmask the deeper meanings behind your favourite horror films, and explore the psychology of fear that keeps us coming back for more.
From script analysis to scene breakdowns, we'll be dissecting your favourite horror movies to see just what makes them tick. So whether you're a seasoned horror aficionado or just starting to explore the genre, join us as we unravel the spine-tingling stories that haunt the silver screen.
I'm Will.
I am Lee.
So for those of you who may be new to the show, why not check out our website? That's scriptoscreenpodcast.com, where you can find a lot more insight into the scripts and the films that we cover. We've added scareology graphs to illustrate the scares in each of the films and annotated script excerpts to highlight some of the ideas and concepts we cover when dissecting the screenplays. So if you want to go deeper on your favourite scripts, there's more to interest and entertain over at scriptoscreenpodcast.com. Also, if you like what we're doing here on Script to Scream, please like and share the episodes if you can. Only takes a moment, but it really helps us reach new people. And if you're enjoying the show and feel particularly generous, leaving a review is amazing for us. So that would be awesome as well.
Indeed it would. I mean, the praise of random strangers on the internet is what I live for. So indulge me, please.
Okay, it sounds a little sarcastic. I think there's a troubling truth there somewhere, Lee, maybe. Anyway, all talk of indulgence aside, how have you been, Lee? What have you been watching, dude?
So I think, well, like you in the previous episode, I checked out the new Master of the Universe movie, and I enjoyed it. Not as much as I was hoping I would enjoy it, but the kid in me still got a kick out of seeing these characters so beautifully realized on the big screen.
Yeah.
I see what you meant about the tonal shifts, and a sizable chunk of the humor did kind of miss the mark for me, but I am a notoriously miserable bastard. So, you know, it could have just been me, but seeing
No, I
the
don't think
likes
it
of
was, Lee.
yeah, seeing the likes of Trapjaw and Beastman and, you know, Skeletor, and seeing these guys done proper on the big screen was a special moment for me as an 80s kid. So that was great. And there were some really clever touches in there. I loved the way that characters like really stupid names were explained as just being like the imagination of this like 10-year-old boy who gets taken to another world, and he just remembers the guy with the big fist as Fisto, and the guy who headbutts stuff was Ram Man. I thought that was really clever.
Yeah.
What else?
I do have to
Oh
say,
yeah.
I mean, it looked great, I thought.
Oh,
The
it looked
design
beautiful.
elements were
Yeah.
fantastic. But yeah, one or two things didn't work for me.
Yeah, totally get you on that one. I've also been enjoying Creepshow on Shudder.
Okay.
The series on there. It's a delightfully kind of low budget, cheesy, but there are some decent names that pop up. And I was genuinely delighted to find that they have a full-blown Evil Dead episode, complete with Deadites and Ted Raimi and a Necronomicon. And I had no idea that was coming, so that literally just put a smile on my face for a week.
Fantastic.
I was very chuffed about that one. Also, really enjoyed the trailer for Whale Fall, based on a book by the amazing Daniel Krauss and adapted for the big screen and directed by Script to Scream favorite Brian Duffield. I don't know if you've checked that trailer out yet.
I haven't seen the trailer. I mean, I know the film's coming, but yeah, I've seen one or two production stills, but that's about it.
I've
Yeah,
read
what
the
did you
book,
think of the trailer? Did you
and
feel good?
I thought it was amazing. I thought it was absolutely amazing. I mean, because I've read the book. The book is really good, but this was the trailer exceeded my expectations. So I'm very excited for the film, and I love Krauss. I love Duffield, so I'm really hoping that this film is a huge hit when it comes out, because they both deserve it.
Nice. Well, I watched a few things this week. I watched Mississippi Burning, which is a great Alan Clark film about the sort of real life killings of three civil rights campaigners in Mississippi. So Willem Dafoe, Gene Hackman, they sort of team up as FBI agents on the case, and there's like this wonderful dynamic between the two. You know, Dafoe is really earnest and kind of committed sort of civil rights advocate, and Gene Hackman's a former sort of Mississippi sheriff turned FBI agent. He's much more not cynical so much, but you know, he's knowledgeable about the local customs and attitudes and all their prejudices and so forth. But it's a, you know, good film, really sort of quite powerful. So definitely worth a watch. And Alan Clark's just such a great director. I don't know if you've ever seen that, Lee.
I can't say I have. So,
It's worth a watch. Worth a watch. Now, I also watched something, bit of a random pick this one. I was sort of trawling through the platforms looking for something to watch, late one evening and fancied a Western, Lee, and I came across Man of the West with Gary Cooper. And this is probably his last kind of really great role, and I sort of knew this one already because it's directed by a favorite of mine, a guy called Anthony Mann, who's such an amazing director. And to be honest, I thought this one might be a bit bland, but another reason I sort of went for this was because it has Lee J. Cobb in a supporting role. And I don't know if you know Lee J. Cobb at all. He's probably a face that you'd recognize, but he plays the
mm,
antagonist in this. Yeah, do you know anything about Lee J. Cobb at all?
I must confess, I do not, but I await your inevitable enlightenment.
Oh, Lee, I feel bad about talking to you about it now. No, he came out of this kind of New York theatre group called the Group Theatre. Elia Kazan was an actor and director there too. Came out of the same sort of place. He's obviously really well known, but I absolutely love Cobb's work. I mean, he is just in some absolute bangers. You probably sort of know him most from 12 Angry Men, maybe On the Waterfront. The Dark Past is an amazing film as well, as with William Holden and Lee J. Cobb in the lead. Anyway, amazing kind of character actor, and he absolutely steals the show here, Lee. He makes everyone look kind of wooden in comparison. I mean, to be fair, Cooper's meant to be sort of slightly kind of stilted at first, but yeah, really, really enjoyed this one. And one of the things that stood out, it has like a lot of Man films, it has sort of a slightly darker edge to it. And there's this amazing fight scene between Cooper and this guy who's his cousin in the film. And Cobb is kind of watching on as the whole thing unfolds. But it's such a powerful scene, like in the context of the film. Dude, I was just completely blown away that this scene kind of appeared in this film
Mm.
like at this time. And there's a lot of kind of shame wrapped up in this fight, and it's just absolutely amazing. And yeah, I was completely kind of unexpecting this to happen. And it's a really, really powerful scene in the context of the film and based on other things that are happening. But yeah, totally amazing. It was really, really a great, great movie. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, if you love a kind of older Western, I'll stop rambling now, Lee. But if you love an older Western and want something with some slightly unexpected kind of bite, Man of the West is a really great thing to watch.
Awesome. I do love a Western. There's a guilty pleasure of mine. So, what is strapped on the table for dissection this week, my man?
Okay, well, this week, Lee, we it's time for our regular trip into the world of TV horror. And it's back to the glorious 90s, Lee, the glorious 90s, as we take a deep dive into the first episode of the cult smash, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh man, I still cannot believe you've never ever seen a single episode of Buffy. I mean, this show was everything to me in my teens. Like I was fully obsessed, and it's been a rough couple of years for Buffy fans. We've lost Michelle Trachtenberg, Nicholas Brendon, and just recently the great Anthony Stewart Head. Not to mention the canning of the recently announced reboot series. It's a tough time to be a Buffy fan right now. The blows are coming at us from all directions.
Yeah, I mean, you have my genuine sympathies, Buffy fans. It's always hard when you're sort of your heroes pass on, and certainly having sort of series cancelled, is not fun either. Okay, so Buffy, the series premiered way back in the last millennium, Lee, on March 10th, 1997, and was quickly welcomed by a ravenous fan base and a slew of awards, including two Emmys. The show would run for 7 seasons in total, with a finale chosen hitting on May 20th, 2003. Would also spawn a successful spin off, of course, Angel, which ran for 5 seasons itself, three of which ran concurrently with Buffy and led to several memorable crossovers.
Nice. And we'll be comparing the first episode with a copy of the script dated January 1997 and weighing in at 64 pages. The script is titled Welcome to the Hellmouth and is written, of course, by Joss Weedon.
All right, then, buckle in and enjoy the ride as we strap down and dissect Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Welcome to the Hellmouth. After moving to Sunnydale for a fresh start, teenager Buffy Summers discovers her new town sits atop a Hellmouth, attracting vampires and supernatural evil. Determined to leave her Slayer destiny behind, Buffy is drawn back into the fight when a powerful vampire plot threatens her classmates and the town, Lee.
Oh, okay. So before we even start on the premiere episode and the script itself, I want to take a quick minute to talk about what came before. In other words, the 1992 Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie.
Yeah, now I am aware of this, Lee, but I mean, how does the film fit into the picture here?
Okay, so way back before the series was greenlit, Whedon had the chance to bring Buffy to the big screen.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you've seen it, but is the movie any good?
It depends who you ask. I mean, I fucking loved this film when it first came out, but it hasn't aged anywhere near as well as the show has. In the film, it was Christy Swanson who took up the stake as Buffy, alongside the likes of Luke Perry, Donald Sutherland, Rutger Hauer, and a scene chewing Paul Rubens. And this is one of the few examples where the script is actually so much better than the film.
Okay, what a cast, though. I mean, a hell of a cast. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming this is completely separate from the series. Would that be right?
Yes and no. I mean, the film, while not strictly canon, is a pretty accurate account of what happened to Buffy before moving to Sunnydale. During its kind of prime popularity, Whedon re-released the original story as a comic book miniseries called The Origin, which just kind of ties things up a little and aligns it better to the established TV show timeline.
Right. So the film is a like a prequel.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's quite fun just to kind of take it as such.
Nice. Okay. So with that out of the way, Lee, let's get cracking. We open on what would become a staple of the series, especially in its early years, Sunnydale High School. But it's nightly, and as we'd expect, the school is eerily quiet and deserted as we drift through its dark corridors. A window is smashed, and a couple of college kids break in. They aren't named other than boy and girl, but we'll get to know one of them a little better later. The boy is all swagger and leads the nervous girl through his old high school with the goal of taking her up to the roof above the gym for some undoubtedly unsavory acts, Lee. She's too nervous to go any further, though, so our swaggering douchebag starts to work his mojo right there in the corridor. Now, our nervous girl is startled by something, a strange noise, Lee, but douchebag assures her that there's nothing to be afraid of, except maybe him. Is it a bear or is it a man? Which one is it? Ooh. Okay, that's when Bamley, our demure little blonde, reveals a demonic visage and chomps down on the unsuspecting fool's neck at around the 2 minute mark and cue 90s opening credits.
And what glorious 90s goodness they are. Fun fact for you, completely unrelated, but when my son was a toddler, every time he'd hear the Buffy theme music, he'd drop whatever he was doing, sprint to the middle of the room, lift his shirt up, and start dancing his little butt off. It was great.
It's a bit of a banger, to be fair, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, isn't it? So this opening is great because it sets up so much of the show. We're going to be spending a lot of time at Sunnydale High, so it's fitting that our first scene takes place here. And then we have the whole kind of play on horror tropes. The boy leading a seemingly defenseless girl to her doom, only for her to reveal hidden strength and kill him, which incidentally was Whedon's inspiration for the whole concept of Buffy itself. What if that timid girl walking alone down a dark alley could kick the ass of whatever monster was stalking her? And what an opening image this kind of hideous vampire face is, and it's a real shocker too, I think. As a whole, the vampire effects in Buffy did a really good job of bringing out the demonic aspect of a character without taking away their ability or all of their ability to sort of fully emote to the camera. And Buffy regularly plays with these horror tropes, especially ones that it is confident the audience will be familiar with. And what it will do is it will subvert or play with them whenever possible. And this is the first and one of the greatest examples of that. Another one that springs to my mind is in season one, we had a ventriloquist dummy that was possessed, but it turned out that the dummy was actually a good guy and he was trying to kill some demon. But
Nice.
it's just a really cool, but it doesn't flip that switch until about halfway through the episode. It's really clever. And another interesting thing about the script here is that we won't have to ponder the act breaks because they are labeled for all to see. And this shocking act is the end of the teaser. And after the credits, we roll right into Act 1.
Yeah. So after a rip-roaring ride through its glorious 90s style opening credits, we're introduced to the titular Buffy Ann Summers. Now, she's sleepingly but not peacefully, as her dreams are haunted by nightmarish visions of vampires, ghouls, and one particularly striking vampire at around the 4-minute mark.
In the script, there's a moment of Buffy actually walking through this vampire's lair, but on screen we just get the clip show sort of montage. And there's also some dialogue from this vampire called the Master in the script, and it goes like this. Angle, a girl in bed, tossing and turning as the camera moves down to reveal the shadow of someone, something, approaching her, and we hear an impossibly low voice off screen. I'll take you, like a cancer. I'll get inside you and eat my way out.
Pretty sinister, I would say.
Yeah.
So Buffy wakes from her nightmare, but doesn't seem particularly bothered by it. She seems more unnerved by her mother's reminder that it's her first day at a new school. Always a nerve-wracking prospect, Lee.
Oh, yeah. Half empty moving boxes are some nice little mise en scene to let us know the Summers family is new in town.
Yeah, and a short while later, Buffy is dropped off at school by her mum, Joyce, played by Christine Sutherland. Joyce encourages Buffy to make friends, but also not get kicked out, which is a nice little hint at backstory, whilst also saying a lot about their often strained relationship. We also meet lovable dork Xander, played by Nicholas Brendan, and super sweet nerd Willow, played by Alison Hannigan, and Xander's best bud and fellow dork Jesse, played by Eric Balfour. And they come together, they all discuss the new girl on campus.
I'll speak later about how good Whedon's characters are, but this little intro immediately gives us a clear, concise picture of these kids. You know, Xander is somewhat clueless. Willow is obviously very intelligent and shy, and seemingly has something of a crush on Xander.
Yeah, now Buffy has a meeting with the school principal where we learn a little more of her backstory and how she burnt down the last school's gymnasium. But it's still a somewhat positive meeting, even if the principal isn't willing to entirely disregard her troubled past. Loved the principal in this, Lee. I thought that was really fun. And as soon as she leaves the office, we get a classic oops, I've been bumped into and dropped my shit moment.
Yeah, okay. So there are still some of the classic tropes at play here, and you know, if I were you, I wouldn't get too attached to that principal.
Well, they're classics for a reason, Lee. You know,
He's not going to be around for long.
Okay. Well, thankfully, Xander is on hand to help out. Bumbles every attempt to play it cool and introduce himself as anything other than an awkward nerd. Buffy heads off, but she's forgotten her wooden stake as a confused Xander ponders its potential uses. It's off to class now for Buffy, and lacking the relevant textbooks, she's taken under the wing of Cordelia, the teen queen of Sunnydale High, played by Charisma Carpenter. What a great name that is.
Yeah, you kind of have to go into showbiz or stripping with a name like that, I think. Incidentally, Carpenter had the biggest real-life age difference between herself and her on-screen character, clocking in at 11 years older than her 16-year-old character in the show.
Now, Cordelia gives Buffy the grand tour, stopping off to bully and humiliate Willow on the way, something which clearly doesn't sit well with Buffy.
Yeah, and here is that scene for you. Cordelia. Willow, nice dress. Off Willow's smile. Good to know you've seen the softer side of Sears. That hurt. Buffy says nothing, surprised by Cordelia's sudden viciousness. Willow says, almost apologetically, Willow, well, my mom picked it out. Cordelia, witheringly, no wonder you're such a guy magnet. Are you done? Willow, oh. She vacates the fountain. Cordy steps up to it, looking at Buffy. Cordelia, you want to fit in here, the first rule is know your losers. Once you can identify them by sight, they're a lot easier to avoid. She bends down to drink. Buffy looks at the departing Willow unhappily. So there's some great character beats for the two of them here. I mean, it instantly draws us to Buffy while painting Cordelia as something of a biatch. Although, and I'll say this now, as the series progresses, these characters change and evolve wonderfully. And the bitchy Cordelia of season one would prove almost unrecognizable years later down the line as a firm fan favorite.
Yeah, and it's interesting that there's a little link here, isn't there, between Cordelia's kind of idea about knowing your losers at first sight, being identified, able to identify them, and
Yeah.
the chat that Buffy has with Giles a little bit later about being able to
Yes, yes,
identify
there is.
vampires.
Yeah.
It's a great little kind of little seed that's going to sort of
Mm.
flower a little bit later. Anyway, Cordelia drops Buffy off at the library, where we meet the final piece of the puzzle, Lee, the last main character member, for season one at least, one Rupert Giles, played to absolute perfection, British perfection, Lee, by Anthony Head. Now, Buffy is here for school books, but it seems that Mr. Giles has been expecting her and produces a massive tome on the vampire. Is that how you say it, Lee? That's how
I
I'm
guess
saying it.
so. Yeah. That's how it's pronounced from now on.
Yeah, something Buffy decidedly doesn't want to see, and she bails out ASAP.
Mm. And this is in a lot of ways another play on classic movie tropes. You'd expect this to be kind of a mentor-teacher relationship where Giles educates Buffy on her duty to slay vampires. But what Whedon does here in this pilot that is so genius is Buffy is already past that stage in her life. She is a seasoned warrior at this point. She's battle hardened. She's trying to leave that old life behind. And that's not to say that there isn't a significant mentor student, father daughter relationship that develops between the two of them later. But you can tell Giles is expecting to rock up to Sunnydale and train this naive young kid in the ways of slaying monsters. But in a lot of ways, she is already more experienced in this than he is.
Yeah. We head into the girls' locker room now, and some bitchy students gossiping about Buffy open their lockers, only for the dead guy from the intro to topple out and cue screams, Lee, at the 12-minute and 40-second mark.
And if it wasn't clearly apparent by the commercial handy fade to black, the script does clarify that this is indeed the end of Act One.
Yeah, and we're powering straight into Act Two. No time for ad breaks, Lee, in the streaming DVD generation. And Buffy locates Willow in the courtyard and asks her to help tutor her for classes, something the shy bookworm is all too happy to do. They are then joined by Xander and Jesse, who attempt to get to know the new girl a little better. We do learn through some handy exposition that Mr. Giles the librarian is new and arrived only shortly before, and Xander returns Buffy's stake here, Lee. Now, the gang hang is interrupted by Cordelia, who informs Buffy that gym is cancelled due to the dead guy found stuffed in a locker. Buffy is immediately on edge, Lee. After Cordelia proves to know nothing about the corpse, she takes it upon herself to break into the locker room and check things out for herself.
So before this, in the script, we get an additional scene where Buffy first attempts to interrogate the principal. So check it out.
Interior, hallway outside locker room, continuous. Mr. Flutie closes the door quietly. He turns to see Buffy before him. Mr. Flutie. Oh, Buffy. What do you want? Buffy. Is there a guy in there that's dead? Mr. Flutie. Where did you hear that? Okay, yes, but he's not a student. Not currently. Buffy. Do you know how he died? Mr. Flutie. What? Buffy. I mean, how could this have happened? Mr. Flutie. Well, that's for the police to determine when they get here. But this structure is safe. We have inspections, and I think there's no grounds for a lawsuit. Buffy. Was there a lot of blood? Was there any blood? Mr. Flutie. I would think you wouldn't want to involve yourself in this kind of thing. Buffy. I don't. Could I just take a peek? Mr. Flutie. Unless you already are involved. Buffy. Never mind. Mr. Flutie, being nicer. Buffy, I understand this is confusing. You're probably feeling a lot right now. You should share those feelings with someone else. Buffy smiles wanly, backs off. So she quickly locates the corpse and finds two distinctive puncture marks in his neck. Her reaction, mild annoyance, Lee. She heads to the library where she confronts Giles about the dead kid and they discuss the presence of vampires in the town. Giles. Will he rise again? Buffy. Who? Giles. The boy. Buffy. No, he's dead. Giles, can you be sure? Buffy. To make you a vampire, they have to suck your blood, and then you have to suck their blood. It's a whole big sucking thing. Mostly they'll just take all your blood and then you'll just die. Why am I still talking to you? We also get some handy rule clarification about how people become vampires. It's a handy little expo drop with some critical lore attached.
It's delivered really well here because the scene has that all-important buzzword, conflict. Buffy and Giles, they're at odds, but really the conflict for Buffy here is internal. She knows what she is supposed to do, what she was quite literally born to do, but she's fighting it here because it is conflicting with her want, which is to live a normal life.
Yeah. Now, Buffy storms out of the library, but Giles isn't giving up this time and gives chasely, revealing a confused and bewildered Xander lurking in the book stacks. Giles catches up to Buffy in the hallway where he informs her that something big is coming, some cataclysmic event. But Buffy shrugs him off. After all, this is Sunnydale, and how bad could it be, Lee? Well, right on cue, we head below ground to the underground ruined cathedral we glanced in Buffy's dream. The place is full of vamps, but one in particular as our focus, a large, ugly bloodsucker named Luke. He's chanting that the sleeper will awaken and the world will bleed.
Ooh, ominous much.
Yeah, you're really vibing the whole Weedon speak today, aren't you, Lee?
Hell yeah, boy. Genre fans will recognize this buff beast as Brian Thompson, star of many a horror sci-fi adventure and probably best known for his role as the alien bounty hunter in The X-Files. And right on cue, we are out of Act 2 and we're going to move straight into Act 3.
Yeah, so Act 3 kicks off with Buffy attempting to choose an outfit in which to meet Cordelia at the local club.
I'll give you the passage from the script here. Check it out.
Interior, Buffy's bedroom, night. She's in the agony of outfit choosage, getting ready to go out. She has two, one scanty, the other somewhat plain. She holds them alternately in front of her, looking in the mirror. Buffy, holding up one. Hi, I'm an enormous slut. The other. Hi, would you like a copy of The Watchtower? Throws them both down. I used to be so good at this.
So the reason I highlighted this one is because Weedon has been quoted as saying there was some pushback from the network about the use of the word slut, as they didn't know what time slot the show would have. So apparently they championed the line because it stresses that being a slut is a bad thing and Buffy is not one.
Yeah, boo for the unnecessary slut shaming, I think. So after a sweet little heart-to-heart with her mum, Buffy heads out to the club, but quickly becomes aware that someone or something is following her, Lee. She ducks down an alley, seems sensible, but finds herself at a dead end. What follows is a cool little scene. Exterior, an alley, a moment later. Buffy turns in. She looks about her. A pipe runs across the narrow alley some 10 feet above her. Garbage cans cluster at the other end. Angle, Buffy, doing a handstand on a pipe overhead. The figure turns into the now empty alleyway, starts down it. Buffy suddenly drops down on him, legs locked over his neck. She throws herself back, tipping him over, rolling herself and slamming his body onto the ground. He's on his feet quickly, but she grabs him and throws him against the wall. She closes in, but he makes no move to attack. He puts up his hands. Angel, is there a problem, Mum? He seems faintly amused. Buffy eyes him suspiciously, getting her first good look at him. Angel is strikingly handsome, with intelligence and a kind of distance in his eyes. Moves with a fighter's grace. Buffy, there's a problem. Why are you following me? Angel, I know what you're thinking, but don't worry. I don't bite. She backs off a bit, perplexed. Angel, truth is, I thought you'd be taller, or bigger. Muscles and all that. You're pretty spry, though. Buffy, what do you want? Angel, same thing you do. Buffy, okay, what do I want? The amusement leaves his face. Angel, to kill him. To kill them all. Buffy, game show. Sorry, that's incorrect, but you do get this lovely watch and a year's supply of turtle wax. What I want is to be left alone. Angel, you really think that's an option anymore? You're standing at the mouth of hell, and it's about to open. He reaches into his coat for something. It's a jewelry box. He throws it to her. Angel, don't turn your back on this. You've got to be ready. Buffy, what for? Angel, for the harvest. He starts out. Buffy, who are you? Angel, let's just say I'm a friend. Buffy, exasperated. Well, maybe I don't want a friend. Angel, I didn't say I was yours. He goes. Buffy watches him go, then opens the box. Angle, in the box, is a cross, small, antique, on a gold chain.
So here we have our first introduction to David Boreanaz's Angel. While he's a side character through the first season, he'd proved popular enough to move to the main cast for seasons 2 and 3, before being given his own spin-off show, which ran for another 5 seasons. So effectively, Angel's been around in TV for longer than Buffy has. And there's also a line from Buffy here that deliberately states her want. For anyone not paying attention, what I want is to be left alone.
Yeah, it's a pretty clear declaration there, isn't it?
Yeah. We also have a scene on the page that doesn't make it to the screen here, so check it out.
Wide angle, Buffy alone in the alley. Buffy looks at the cross, at the departing figure of the mysterious man. And as she walks slowly away, the camera tracks past the corner, past another group of garbage cans. In front of them, right before us but unseen by Buffy, are 2 figures. The poor man we saw in her dream, and a vampire. The beast has its face burrowing in his neck as the last of his life shudders out. Yeah, so any thoughts on why they didn't put this in, Lee?
I'm not sure. I mean, I know TV Land has a whole lot more restrictions when it comes to violence and death and apparently slut shaming, but I think the show could have used a little more horror at this point, personally.
Yeah, I mean, my only thought was that it could sort of distract a little bit from the Buffy Angel meet, but I also wonder if it's something which just was sort of deemed unnecessary. It doesn't really
Hmm.
move us on anywhere and raises questions about Buffy's prowess in a way. Vamp just round the corner, sort of chowing down, but
Yeah,
I
I get
guess
that.
in a way it could kind of set up, as I mentioned earlier, Giles and Buffy's talk about her being able to sort of spot or detect
Hmm.
vampires, maybe. But anyway, it was jettisoned. And Buffy at this point locates Willow in the club, and the 2 bond over Boysley.
So this location is known as the Bronze, and it would prove to be a crucial meeting place for the Buffy crew, or the Scoobies, as known to some. It also allowed the show to regularly feature new bands, for the hip teen demographics.
Like a young Lee, no doubt.
I may have technically been a teenager, but I was woefully unhip. My much hipper daughters are Buffy fans, though, so I guess coolness must skip a generation.
So Willow admits she's crushing on Xander and that they've been friends since they were wee children, Lee. Buffy gives her some boy related advice. Life is short, seize the moment. All sounds good. Then she spots Giles lurking in the upper gantries and heads off to confront him. Oh, well, it looks like it's that time again, folks. Time for another random page check.
Alrighty, so it's common screenwriting law that one page equals 1 minute of screen time. There's always a little bit of leeway here, but to be honest, it usually measures out, and this is the part where we put that rule to the test.
Nice. So, where are we minutes wise and where are we on the page, Lee?
We are on the 28th minute of the episode and on page 42 of the script.
Oh, well, that's a 14-page difference, isn't it? And for something this short, that's quite a mismatch. Any thoughts on that, Lee? It's quite big.
Yeah, I've got a few thoughts on this one. I mean, to start with, the first couple of pages of the shooting script are reserved for cast listings and locations, not to mention the cover page. So that drops the variance down to 11 pages, which to be fair, is still a hell of a jump. We did have the cutscene where Buffy asks Principal Flutie about the corpse. So we'll give that another page. That puts us down to 10 pages out. Some of the act breaks in the script kind of cut half the page off. So that's another page gone. And on one page there is just a single word of dialogue. So that's another 2, which takes us down to around about an 8-page difference. We've lost a few lines of dialogue here and there. And we also lost the opening dream sequences longer in the script. We get the extra scene of a vampire attack on the page. So I think that kind of balances out. So I think in truth, we're probably, I say only, but I think we're realistically about 7 pages out of sync. So I'm going to put this down to the show's fast and snappy dialogue. I mean, it really does flow thick and fast. And I reckon that's why we're so far ahead on page to minute count.
Yeah, the dialogue does skip along, doesn't it? Good shout.
Hmm.
Okay, so Buffy checks in with Giles, who looks like he's having about as much fun in a club full of teenagers as you or I would.
I think it's a rite of passage for every male Buffy fan when you realize you've effectively outgrown Xander. We're never cool enough to be Angel, and you've basically become Giles.
He again tries to warn Buffy of the severity of upcoming events, but Buffy somewhat blindsides him with Angel's talk of harvests and hellmouths. But Giles isn't just a dithering Englishman. He's smart enough to know when to change tactics, and he suggests that maybe things won't go to hell as long as Buffy hasn't been having any prophetic dreams or the like. The look on Buffy's face is quite telling here, Lee. We take a brief time out to check in on Cordelia, who mercilessly shoots down Jessie's attempts at asking her to dance. And that's a particular pain I'm sure we're all sharing, Lee.
Not me, dude.
No, you never got turned down by a girl for a dance?
Hey, if you don't ask, you don't get rejected, right? And my record remains unbroken. Zero rejections.
Tactics, Lee. Like it. So Giles keeps on nudging, challenging her to hone her senses and seek out any vampires in the crowd. She almost immediately pings one, more due to his dated fashion sense than his supernatural gift. But all playfulness quickly evaporates when we see that the girl, the untrendy bloodsucker he's chatting up, is none other than Willow Lee, who is in no doubt seizing Buffy's advice to seize the moment. Buffy heads off in pursuit, snapping the leg off a chair in preparation for the staking. The back rooms of the Bronze are surprisingly quiet until Buffy is startled by Cordelia and pins her against the wall, stake raised, before sheepishly scooting off to continue her search, but not before saying goodbye to any potential social life as Cordelia goes full gossip girl on her.
That Whedon speak is infectious, no?
Mm. Yeah. So Buffy heads off to continue the search while Giles heads to the library to consult his books. What a nerd. Both oblivious to the fact that Jessie is putting the moves on the vampire girl from the opening sequence, whose name, incidentally, is Darla. We head back underground now, where Vamp Luke kneels before a pool of blood, from which slowly rises a particularly ancient looking vampire whom Luke refers to as Master. And this all happens at the 34-minute and 40-second mark. So why does this guy look more sort of vampy than the others, Lee?
It's sometimes referenced in the show that the older a vampire is, the stronger and less human looking they become. We get one vampire later in the show that has hooves. He's so old. And if memory serves, at some point in the show, Darla mentions that the Master has evolved beyond human features or something to that effect.
Okay, well, he is one ugly motherfucker, Lee. That's all I'm going to say. And like clockwork, we arrive at the end of Act 3. So Act 4 kicks off, and we're straight back in with Luke and the Master. We learn that the Master is weakened and seemingly trapped by some mystical barrier until the upcoming harvest brings him back to full strength. Luke assures him that his minions are bringing him food, and the old vampire asks for something young.
Dirty bastard.
Yeah, I mean, is it wrong if you're literally just going to eat them? I mean, obviously, yes, but
Uh, Veal over venison, I suppose.
Okay. So we catch up with Willow and her vampy beau, but as yet she's unharmed, Lee. Probably not for long, though, as he leads her on a shortcut through Sunnydale Cemetery.
Another staple location for the show.
Yeah, it does seem rather fitting. A desperate Buffy bumps into Xander, who initially ribs her about her vampire slaying delusions before being swayed by his genuine concern for Willow.
Yeah, it's a cool beat for Xander, who hasn't really had a lot going for him up until this point. In the script, the scene runs a few seconds longer with Xander leading Buffy to wherever he thinks Willow may be. So check it out.
Buffy, looking around. Where would they go? Xander. Why? You know something about Mr. Goodbar that she doesn't? Oh, hey, I hope he's not a vampire, because then you'd have to slay him. She turns back to him, surprised and miffed. Buffy, was there a school bulletin? Was it in the news? Is there anybody in this town who doesn't know I'm a Slayer? Xander, I only know that you think you're a Slayer, and I only know that because I was in the library today. Buffy, whatever, just tell me where Willow would go. Xander, you're serious? Buffy, we don't find her, there's going to be another dead body in the morning. A beat, as he looks at her, sees she isn't kidding, isn't wrong. Xander, come on. Willow, meanwhile, is still in the graveyard, but is getting understandably freaked out, Lee. Things aren't helped when the vamp drags her into a mausoleum. Things get worse for Willow as Darla rocks up with a bloody and disorientated Jesse in tow. Now, Willow tries to leave with him, but Darla goes full vamp face a little after the 38-minute mark. And it's the first time we get to see the actual morph effect, which, while very dated now, was probably pretty freaky back in the day. Thankfully, Buffy and Xander arrive just in the nick of time, and we finally get to see Buffy do her thing as she effortlessly stakes Willow's blood-sucking boy toy, and we get this cool turn to dust effect with a wicked kind of scream sound effect.
That sound effect is really more important than you think because in the future of the show, it basically allows them to dust vampires off screen with a recognizable audio tag, which obviously is going to save them significant money on special effects.
Yeah, genius. So Buffy also makes short work of Darla, but seems to hit a bump in the road when Luke arrives on the scene. Now, he's clearly much more capable than the others, and Buffy has her hands full, but at least the others have managed to escape. Or not, as they run headfirst into a cohort of vampires, Lee. Things aren't going much better for Buffy either, as Luke seems to be manhandling her somewhat, tossing her into an open crypt before looming in for the kill and freeze frame Lee to be continued. Dun dun dun.
Awesome. So come on, man, what did you think of this one?
Oh, yeah, I thought this was very enjoyable, Lee. I thought it was a lot of fun. I mean, Whedon's dialogue and his sort of subverting of tropes is a real joy. And I think the cast is really well put together. I can totally see why this was such a kind of phenomenon back in the day. And it does have that kind of 90s high school thing. But I think with a kind of swagger that we've come to expect from Whedon, and now sort of looking back. I thought there's some really funny lines. I assume the cast grow into their roles a bit more as the series kind of progresses. This is the pilot, isn't it? But yeah, man, had a blast here, dude. What about you?
I mean, I've mentioned throughout this show is a really big deal to me in my youth, and it still holds a really special place in my cold heart now. It's hard to really get across just how good and groundbreaking this show was back in the day, and just how great it will become. Because, as you pointed out, the first series, while still really good, it was a little rough around the edges in places, but trust me when I tell you, this show deserves every ounce of love and adoration it gets. It was absolutely fantastic. I think for me, it kind of peaked. Season two was probably the best season out of all of them. But every season has its positives and negatives. But it is an amazing show, absolutely brilliant.
Nice, dude. Okay, then, Lee, let's break this baby down. So let's begin the breakdown by looking at the biggest differences, if indeed there were any, between the screenplay and the episode.
Okay, so we had a few minor cuts and we lost one significant scene with Buffy and the principal talking, but apart from that, everything is pretty much down to the word.
Nice, nice. Okay, so let's look at our characters. Are there any introductions that stood out to you as particularly effective or memorable?
Oh man, there's some very good ones in here. I'm going to go with Xander's, I think, and that goes like this: Angle, a skateboard. Weaving along the road on it is Xander, dressed with the shaggy indifference common to skateboarders. He is bright, funny, and will one day be suave and handsome. Till that day arrives, he'll do the best he can with bright and funny. How about you?
Yeah, I enjoyed that one too, dude. I thought, funnily enough, I picked that one out as well, but I picked a few others. So I thought that was really good. I thought Buffy's intro was actually kind of interesting, is because it's really short and sparse, isn't it? There's barely anything there. So with all of that in mind, I picked out Willow's intro, which goes like this. Willow. She's shy, bookish, and very possibly dressed by her mother. The intelligence in her eyes and the sweetness of her smile belie a genuine charm that is lost on the unsubtle high school mind. It's certainly lost on Xander, though he brightens considerably to see her, the new face forgotten, at least for now. So I enjoyed this because it seems to kind of just perfectly encapsulate Willow. And I like the line about being dressed by her mother. I thought that was funny. Yeah, I just thought it was a sort of really kind of sweet intro for Willow,
Yeah.
who seems like a sweet character, you know. Okay, are there any sort of notable lines of dialogue in here that stood out for you, Lee?
Oh my God. I mean, the script is rife with really fantastic dialogue, quippy one-liners. And in fact, this whole way of speaking and writing dialogue literally spawned its own subgenre in the equally loved and hated Whedon speak that we've kind of touched on before.
Yeah, okay, so explain that one for our listeners, though, Lee.
Obvious much. Okay, no, just kidding. So Whedon speak or Whedonese is a highly stylized dialogue rhythm associated with Joss Whedon's shows, especially Buffy, Angel, and Firefly. And later, some of his film work, you can kind of feel its influences in the first two Avengers movies, specifically, for example. It's a very quippy, self-referential, pop culture infused way of speaking, and it has a lot of positive points. You know, it makes for humorous listening. It frequently defies audience expectation. It's great for livening up otherwise dull exposition dumps, and it just kind of hits a rhythm that is pleasing to the ear. You know how Sorkin writes dialogue to a certain beat. You know, Whedon would do the same, but to a different drum, which since its cancellation, we're probably never going to hear direct from the source again.
Yeah, so that's something I was wondering if we should touch on. I mean, Whedon's actions and the sort of ramifications thereof.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'll be the first to admit I'm not overly versed in the allegations against Whedon, and I have no particular insight into them. But from a observer kind of standpoint, things started to kick off when Ray Fisher made allegations about Whedon on the set of the 2017 Justice League movie. Gal Gadot too had less than flattering things to say about him, and shortly afterwards, Charisma Carpenter went on record with accusations of toxicity, which were then backed up by several cast members from Buffy and Angel. I mean, this all led to Whedon stepping back from his most recent TV related role on a show called The Nevers, which it was quite swiftly cancelled, and this kind of led to his enduring fall from grace, which is both kind of tragic and ironic because in his heyday he was regarded as something of a groundbreaking feminist icon known for his strong, well-written female characters, and now he's kind of regarded as something as a misogynistic bully. But hey ho. But back to the dialogue. Let me throw out some of my favorite lines from this first episode. You know, if I was going to do the whole series, the whole show from start to finish, I would literally be here all day.
Okay, before you get started with that, Lee, I'm going to put you on the spot. What's your favorite line from the whole show? You've got 10 seconds.
Ah, you bastard. Okay. Okay. Out for a walk, bitch. And without any context, that will mean nothing to you, but hopefully some Buffy fans are nodding their heads right now and smiling. So back to this singular episode. Here are some of my favorites. So first, I'm going to use this one as an example to show how well Whedon builds character through dialogue. So I'm going to focus on Willow for a moment. So first, we have this little exchange. Buffy, hi, Willow, right? Willow, why? I mean, hi. Did you want me to move? And then this next one. Cordelia, are these people bothering you? She has appeared behind Jessie, all this stain on her face. Buffy, oh no. Willow, covering for her. She's not hanging out with us. It's, so I really like that because I think in just like a couple of lines of dialogue, we immediately know so much about her. You know, she's nervous, she has no self-esteem, she's totally without ego, and she's also sweet as a button.
Yeah.
But that's that aside. Let's look at some of the better one-liners. Here's one. Joyce, will there be boys? Buffy, no, Mom, it's a nun club. And this one, Buffy, you're like a textbook with arms. I know this. And last one, Xander, and to return this, he produces the steak. Xander, the only thing I can figure is that you're building a really little fence. It's that just cracks me up every time. But and it's also, I think, worth pointing out that much of the time these characters aren't quipping just for quip's sake. You know, for Buffy especially, it's largely something of an emotional avoidance technique. You know, but how about you?
Yeah, man. I mean, the script is just it's chock full, isn't it, of of great lines. But I picked out a few bits which I thought were cool. And the first is where Whedon is playing with it's kind of playing with irony a bit, I think, and it's quite subtle, but I think it's pretty funny and clever, and stood out to me. And that goes like this: Girl one, the new kid, she seems kind of weird to me. And what kind of name is Buffy? Girl two, hey Aphrodisia. Girl one, hey. So I just thought this was kind of it's very subtle, isn't it? But I thought it
Yeah.
was such it's a cracking little joke. It doesn't really draw attention to itself, as some of the other kind of dialogue does, but I thought it was fun nonetheless.
It was good. It was good.
And I also enjoyed this exchange between Buffy and the headmaster, Mr. Flutie, and we did cover this earlier, but that again that goes like this: Mr. Flutie, being nicer. Buffy, I understand this is confusing. You're probably feeling a lot right now. You should share those feelings with someone else. I just thought this was a great kind of character beat, and Flutie is such a fun, convention-defying character, and this line really does a great job at making him more interesting and amusing, I think, than he, possibly could have been. Right, he could have been
Mm.
quite flat and quite sort of conventional. And then lastly, I picked out this exchange between Buffy and Giles, where we get this wonderful kind of just aside in the dialogue. And I see this as something of a feature of maybe sort of early to mid 90s. It reminds me of Tarantino a little bit too. But the dialogue goes like this: Giles, like werewolves, zombies, succubi, incubi, everything you ever dreaded under your bed and told yourself couldn't be by the light of day. Buffy, what, did you send away for the Time Life series? Giles, yes. Buffy, did you get the free phone? Giles, the calendar. Buffy, cool. Remembering her agenda. Okay, first of all, I'm a vampire slayer. And secondly, I'm retired. Hey, I know. Why don't you kill them? So, yeah, I mean, again, I just thought this was a wonderful little sort of tangent in the dialogue that just appears in the middle of this kind of scene. And they do reveal something of the character's inner world as well, which I think is sort of amusingly presented. So I enjoyed that, Lee. I thought that was
Mm.
good. Okay, so before we break down the scarology, did you have a scariest moment, Lee?
I think for me, it's our first glimpse of a vampire. You know, that being Darla during the cold open. I mean, Judy Benz is such a beautiful woman that when her face gets kind of twisted into that genuinely horrific visage, it's a real face punch. You know, as we spoke about before, the opening sequence plays so well on twisting our perception of relying on horror tropes, and to me, that's the scariest moment. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the Master. I think he's really cool, but the fact that he is, for the most part, imprisoned for this first season, it takes some of his edge away, I think, but it does make him very cool when he finally does, break free from his ethereal prison.
Mm.
But throughout the series as a whole, there are some genuinely frightening villains that even now run a little shiver down my spine. I mean, everyone will rave, and rightly so, about the gentleman from the season 4 episode Hush. That's kind of the one that everybody knows about, and it's a great episode. You should check it out. Even if you don't watch it, any other episodes of Buffy, just watch that one. There's like the waif-like vampire Drusilla, the Freddy-like demon Der Kinderstod. There's so many cool, like genuinely quite creepy examples of monsters throughout this show.
Oh, nice, nice. I mean, for me, the most effective scare was actually the window smash right at the start. I
Hmm.
think it's pretty simple, but yeah, it was a good little jump. The Dallas scare is good too, though. I think, because it is sort of trope defying, makes it more effective too. All right then, let's talk about the scarology, Lee. First of all, yes or no, does the show more or less conform to the 10-minute rule?
No, but being 90s syndicated TV, I don't think there's any surprises there.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so break it down for us, dude.
Okay, so we get our first scare at the end of the teaser, which hits around about the 2 minute mark, and our next at the beginning of Act One, which is 2 minutes later, just after the credits roll. Then our next scare comes in, the body coming out of the locker, which is about 12 minutes and 40. And from there on, the scares are largely on hold in favor of world building now, as we don't really hit the throttle again until we meet the master at just before 35 minutes. And then Buffy does what she does best at the 38-minute mark, which leads us into that cliffhanger finale.
Nice. Okay, well, let's break down those acts for you. So the majority of the scares hit early on with three in the first act, and then round the episode off with two in Act Four. Now, there are some creepy moments in between, and as always, the scarology is somewhat subjective, but I think we're sort of pretty much on the mark here.
Fantastic. And did you have any thoughts on the themes that were at work here?
Yeah, so I think, desire for order is probably the most prominent of our sort of Parker themes. Buffy wants to escape all the sort of slaying hubbub initially and just live a normal sort of teen high schooler life. I think more broadly, the show seems to be sort of angling that Buffy has a sort of mantle of responsibility that she has to take up again, and her desire for a normal life is really in a sort of avoidance of responsibility in a way. I think Whedon does a great job of providing Buffy with motivation for this sentiment and grounding it in a way. And I picked out this little exchange to kind of highlight this. Giles, I'm a watcher. I haven't the skill. Buffy, oh, come on. Stake through the heart, a little sunlight. It's like falling off a log. Giles, the Slayer slays. The watcher, Buffy, watches? Giles, yes. No. He trains her. He prepares her. Buffy, prepares me for what? For getting kicked out of school, losing all my friends, having to spend all my time fighting for my life, and never getting to tell anyone because it might endanger them? Go ahead, prepare me. So I really like this exchange. I thought it was the most kind of heartfelt kind of exchange of the piece in a way, and really shows the conflict Buffy is experiencing between this kind of having to take responsibility, for her sort of slaying skills and her, I guess, her destiny and her desire for a normal life. And I think it speaks to her want and need effectively too. But yeah, what about you, dude? Do you have any thoughts on theme?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point you make of the whole Slayer Destiny gig. See, technically, Buffy can quit anytime she wants. She just has to die, and then the next Slayer in line will be activated, so to speak.
Yeah, not a hugely promising thing
Yeah.
to do. Okay, but that's interesting. So can you, yeah, dude, can you go into a little bit more detail about this whole sort of chosen thing works? I mean,
Yeah, okay. So the way I remember it, there are at any time like dozens, hundreds, thousands of potential slayers that kind of lie dormant. And then when the previous slayer dies, one of these new slayers is activated. And they play with this in the show in really interesting ways, as Buffy does kind of shuffle off the mortal coil a couple of times.
yeah. So the network sort of TV slash Marvel Comics attitude to death, I think there.
Yeah, kind of. But this is no Jean Grey here. To be fair, the show, each of her deaths is unique and critical and surprisingly impactful. And at some points, we also get flashbacks of previous Slayers, and the whole mythology behind it is really kind of cool. But I feel like I've diverged enough. So what we were talking about themes, yeah? Okay,
Yeah.
so for me, the driving theme, like you, the driving theme of the entire show is kind of a desire for order. You can make arguments for the usual horror staples of fear of death, fear of the unknown, and they certainly pop up, as does morality of individuals. But I think these are all secondary drivers that fall under that main under our overarching theme. So why desire for order? You said pretty much said it yourself. This is all down to Buffy, especially in these earlier seasons. All she wants is a normal life, and it is her driving motivation, not to kill monsters, not to save the world. It's just to be a normal teenage girl. And yes, eventually Buffy embraces her destiny and hunts monsters because at heart she is a good person and she is driven to do the right thing. But in these early episodes, all she wants is normality, friends, school, dates. And in order to get these things, more often than not, she has to kill something to get it. So, so on a more dialed in level, you have kind of destiny versus normality subplot in most episodes, especially the earlier seasons. It usually boils down to Buffy wants A, but can't have it because B. With every A being everyday teenage stuff and every B being some unsightly hell spawn that has risen up to cause difficulty. And that kind of brings me to the last point. The whole show is a blatant and unapologetic analogy for high school is hell, because in a lot of ways, it literally is. especially in this show. But as the show progresses and the cast kind of age out of their high school roles, we learn that, college is also hell, as is young adulthood, relationships, sisterhood, work life. All the tribulations of growing up are presented as literal and figurative hell. And I think this is the reason why Buffy hit such a note with so many people and why the fan base remains so passionate today. No matter who you were, there was something in this show for you. And there is an episode of this show for everybody. Like, I genuinely believe that if you sat every human being on the planet down and made them watch every episode, there would be at least one that would speak to them on some kind of deeper level. I was an older teen when this came out, and I fucking hated school, so I instantly connected with this show, and I think that was and is the case with a lot of fans. And something that just kind of popped into my head as well, and we were talking about Cordelia earlier, is that before Buffy comes to Sunnydale, she is basically Cordelia. Like, in her old life, before she became a Slayer, she was basically who Cordelia is. And I think that's why a lot of the time when she sees Cordelia like talking down to Willow and being basically being a bitch, it's because that was her in her old life, and she kind of realizes, oh shit, man, I used to be like that. I used to be this bitch.
Mm.
But yeah, that's my 2 cents on it.
Nice. So it's almost like the Slayer kind of, the mantle of the Slayer gave her some humility and allowed her to
Yeah,
see some of her faults and grow as a human being, kind of
definitely.
thing. Yeah,
Definitely.
cool.
And as I said about Cordelia as well, she also grows as a character as the shows progress, and she spends another couple of seasons on Buffy, and then she heads over to Angel, and she goes through a lot of character growth as well. The one
Nice.
thing this show is really good at is the characters very rarely stagnate for long. They're always kind of evolving, facing new challenges, and just really well written.
Nice, dude. Nice. Okay, so what, if anything, do you think you've learned from the script here, Lee?
Okay, so if this script teaches us one thing, and to be fair, it teaches us quite a lot, but the biggest thing is how to build compelling characters. Every single main and supporting character here is rounded, flawed, and instantly identifiable. They act unique, they talk in unique voices, although the Whedon speak does kind of blend them together a bit sometimes. And each one is absolutely critical to the show and to Buffy herself. They all come at Buffy from different angles, test her from different angles, and they all kind of fulfill different needs in her life. There's no excess baggage here.
What about Xander's best bud for life, Jesse?
Oh yeah, his best bud for life, who is never ever mentioned again after the first two episodes.
That one.
We laugh and we mock, but Jesse also teaches us a valuable lesson. That being that anybody can die, even Buffy, as we've sort of alluded to before. But interestingly, Whedon originally wanted Jesse to feature in the opening credits of those first episodes to really kind of drive home the shock value of his death. But for whatever reason, this never came to pass. And Whedon also has a really interesting way of introducing characters quickly without interrupting the flow on the page. And it goes like this. And this is where we've sort of first formally introduced to Darla. And the camera comes around to show the girl he's talking to. It's the vampire from the opening. Needless to say, she has a normal face on, and she'll be known from now on as Darla. Darla. Jesse. Darla, I haven't seen you before. Are you from around here? So this is really cool on the page as the action line ends with, and she'll be known from now on as. And then we move straight into the character name above her dialogue. And he does something similar earlier in the script with Willow. And you kind of just got to see it to kind of figure it out. I'll put it up on the website later. But it's a really cool way of introducing characters, and something I don't really think I've seen before.
Yeah, that is really cool, isn't it? The way he does that, the way he sort of crafts that. Yeah, for me, the script kind of reinforces this idea that in certain genre and sort of context, addressing the reader can be really effective. And I know we've sort of seen this, been banging on about this recently, but here's an example of how Whedon sort of addresses the reader in the Buffy script. Interior, woman's locker room, afternoon. Two girls approach their lockers talking. They begin undressing, and then it goes into parentheses, just shoes and coats and stuff. Get your mind out of the gutter. I think this really works really well in this script,
Mm.
tonally, and it probably wouldn't work everywhere, but here I think it's really, really effective. And here's another sort of action line where Whedon addresses the reader, again with the sort of use of the parenthetical. And that goes like this: Interior, library, continuous. Buffy enters, looking about her. It's elegant, full of dark wood, streaming sunlight, and, in parentheses, books. And then it goes on. But again, it's the in sort of parentheses or brackets and then books. And, I just think this type of gag is just all about the reading experience. It doesn't
Yeah.
do anything. It's not sort of saying anything about what appears on the screen necessarily, but it communicates the tone, and it makes
Mm.
a joke just for the reader, which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, really enjoyed that, dude. So again, I think that's something that I'll sort of be trying to take forward in certain contexts and certain genres, is that
Yeah.
sort of addressing the reader in certain ways just makes the reading of a script way more engaging, way more fun. But we
Yeah.
banged on about that enough, I think, Lee, or certainly I have. So I'll try and pick out something different, different
Well,
over the
it's a
next week,
really
maybe.
cool technique though, but it is very kind of dependent on the genre you're writing. Like you wouldn't put something like that in Schindler's List.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. It's tone and
it's
genre
well suited.
specific.
Yeah, yeah, totally, and tonal genre specific. But it works well with horror, like light-hearted horror, but
Yeah.
and action movies, things like that. But it has its place, but it is a really, really great technique.
Yeah, nice. Okay, well, I think we're almost done here, dude. But before we wrap up, talk about the next episode, what would you rate the script and, well, I'm going to say the episode as here?
Yeah. I'm going to go eights across the board. I think the show, it remains one of the best kind of first episodes ever. Although it is showing its age a little now. It's very rooted in the 90s, and the script is a very quick and a very enjoyable read. So if I was rating the entire series from start to finish, all 7 seasons, I think I would rate it as a 9.
Nice, dude. I mean, funnily enough, I went with eights too. So I think we're on the same page. I mean, if anything, I would say that I enjoyed the script maybe a touch more than the episode itself,
Hmm.
but only very slightly.
Yeah.
And I think, once it's like any show that you sort of come and see for the first episode, people grow into their characters and you get to
Yeah.
know them a
Yeah.
bit more over time. And so this has that sort of, that kind of slight pilot weakness, if you know what I mean, but it's
Yes.
very
Yeah.
slight, So I went with eights too.
Nice, nice. So once again, we hit round about the same spot on the dartboard, and we've got 16 out of 20 for the script and 16 out of 20 for the episode. So
Nice,
nice,
dude.
happy with
Yeah,
that.
I think that's pretty fair. Okay, so yeah, what's on the agenda for next time, Lee?
Next time we are kicking off our next original versus remake face-off with one of our most highly requested films. We're beginning with the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, it's a classic, Lee. An absolute classic from yesteryear.
Have you seen this one?
You know what? I saw this one when I was younger, probably 12, 13-ish.
Yeah.
Um, Vaguely remember sort of enjoying it, but I've never seen it again since. So it'll
Have you
be
seen the
this
remake? I
be
take it you haven't seen the remake
haven't
either.
seen the remake. No, no, no. So yeah, this will be interesting coming back to it after that
Nice.
length of time. I don't think I can sort of fully remember it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Other than sort of thinking it was kind of almost my sort of vague recollection is that there's a lot of kind of garish sort of color and imagery in this movie.
Mm.
And
Yes.
that's my sort of, sort of saturated colors,
Yep.
that's
Yep. Yep.
that's my kind of vague recollection of it. But no, I'm
That's a pretty
looking.
good recollection. Yeah. I
Okay,
think you're
cool.
in for a treat.
Not going mad then. That's good. Yeah, so I'm kind of looking forward to it, dude. I mean, certainly looking forward to sort of having a look, and it'd be interesting to see how the humor sort of develops. If we sort of see the sequel or maybe some of the other films in the Robert Englund kind of
Mm.
series of Freddy films, how the sort of humor builds throughout those
Yeah.
films. I don't know if it
Yeah. There's
develops
definitely
or
not a lot, not as nowhere near as much humor in that original film.
yeah,
That kind of comes later as Freddy is kind of turned into something very different from what he starts as.
right.
Um, but yeah, so I'm looking forward to that one. I'm really looking forward to going through it. I haven't seen the remake since it first come out, so I'm looking forward to watching that one with a fresh pair of eyes as well.
Yeah, nice, good stuff. Okay, looking forward to that. So, if you enjoyed the podcast, horror fans, please hit like and subscribe. And if you're feeling generous, please leave us a review on your podcatcher of choice, because again, it really sort of helps us and is hugely gratifying to see if you're enjoying the show or not. Do check out our socials. We're on Facebook and Blue Sky and can be reached there. We also publish to YouTube, so you can listen to us there. There's no real visuals currently, but plenty of audio goodness. And always feel free to drop us a line with any thoughts on our website. That's www.scripttoscreenpodcast.com. We genuinely always love hearing from you guys. And we have much more content there that you can check out. So, as Lee mentioned, script samples, scarology graphs, all sorts of additional information on the films and the scripts that we cover. We're now also offering script reading services, where we will analyze your scripts and give you tailored feedback on your work. And we're also creating pitch decks for projects now. We will collaborate with you to create a stunning pitch deck for your project, which you can take out into the world and get pitching. And it's worth mentioning, I think, that we do not rely on generative AI when creating pitch decks. We are sort of very strict on that fact, aren't we, Lee? So if that's something of interest, just go to the website, navigate to the script reading page, and you can get all of the information there. And of course, any listeners out there, please do let us know what your favorite Buffy episode is. It'd be interesting to see, wouldn't it? Just drop us a line or drop us a comment, email through the website or on socials. Yeah, we'd love to know a little bit more about your take on the Buffy episodes and series, and just let us know what you think. But until next time, folks, do take care.
And if the apocalypse comes, beat me and keep on writing those scares.